impossible. Ask the sun to leave the sky. It's just impossible. It's impossible. Ask a baby not to cry. It's just impossible. Can I hold you closer to me? And I feel you going through me. Split the second that I never think of you. Oh, how impossible. Can the ocean keep from rushing to the shore? It's just impossible. If I had you, could I ever want for more? It's just impossible. And tomorrow, should you ask me for the world, somehow I get it. I would sell my very soul and I regret it. For to live without your love, it's just impossible. If I had you, could I ever want for more? It's just impossible. And tomorrow, should you ask me for the world, somehow I'd get it. I would sell my very soul and not regret it. For to live without your love, it's just impossible.
Hello Internet, sorry for the volume on that. That was a little louder than what I hoped it would be, at least for me in my powerful headphones here. My name is John Kulas. I'm a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology. I'm a 10-year user of R for normal statistical applications. And for the last 7 or 8 years, I've also been using R to wrap entire projects. So not just the analyses and data visualizations, but also the reporting of those analyses and visualizations, the communication aspect. And so every week I hang out with some compadres, and compadres haven't been showing up recently, I think, in large part because of what we've been focused on. And so we hang out and we make ourselves available if there's other people out there who are also interested in developing skills using this reproducible research workflow, where your entire project is executed within one platform. And we've been using Quarto or R Markdown because our analytical, software of choice is R. And Quarto is great because it also accommodates other programming languages, like Python is the most prominent one. But so we hang out and we're just here if people want to bounce ideas off of us, or if they're interested in getting started and don't know where to start, or if they just want to pick up some ideas for projects of their own. The last 5 weeks, so this I've been looking forward to this session, and everything that's happened leading up to it immediately is screaming that this is going to be a horrible disaster. So hopefully this will be a 180 from that. My commute to get here, right under the gun here before these sessions, usually takes 20 minutes. It took almost an hour tonight. The Minneapolis area, the roads are crazy. It's super warm. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but My goodness. And then something else just happened. Oh, I forgot to open R and publish this thing. The slides, by the way, are available in the comments if you want to follow along with them. There's always resources hyperlinked within those slides. But the last 5 weeks, we've been focused on trying to learn typist, and it's been a bit of a struggle, and I chose that song Impossible just because of the struggle that we've been having with trying to get typists to conform exactly to a formatting structure that we're trying to replicate. But I think we'll be able to put that to bed tonight. I think we'll finally be able to move on from that. So every week, what we do is because we're kind of intending this to be an interactive Q&A, um, but so far we haven't quite gotten to that point. So what we've been doing in the meantime, which has been pretty fun and educational, I think, for me, I've been learning a ton. Hopefully other people out there have been learning as well. But we've been taking focused capabilities of one of these authoring platforms, and we've kind of been exploring it. And so over the course of the last 5 weeks, we've been trying to bend typist, this new-ish document format. We've been trying to bend that to fit these kind of predefined formatting specifications. And because we do this in a rather exploratory manner every week, we also recap what was done the previous week, and hopefully a format that's a little more conducive to learning for anyone that might stumble across this. So let's actually go ahead and see what happened last week.
Last time, you remember, Boris fixed up an abandoned mine shaft to look like an elevator. It was a clever booby trap, and it trapped a pretty clever booby.
Hey, Rocky, your problem is solved.
Bullwinkle, don't do it!
Don't do what?
Yes, Bullwinkle plummeted down the mine shaft, and Rocky followed in a desperate effort to save him. Then Boris quickly boarded up the shaft.
2 boobies with 1 trap. That's real economy, Natasha.
But now how do we get up to Mount Flatten?
Too late, Boris realized that with Rocky gone, he had lost his means of reaching the mysterious floating mountain. Quickly, he dashed to the mine shaft, but seemed to be just a little late.
Oh, boy, I bet that hurt.
But what Boris had heard was merely the sound of boulders loosened by Bullwinkle's fall, for the moose was still dropping through space with Rocky close behind.
I hope they'll survive. So last week, what we ended up focusing on were emojis, and I got really excited at the end of last week because a capability that was a known limitation of the Quarto specification of typist documents became not a limitation with the newest version of Quarto. So, by the way, one of the limitations of the newest version of Quarto is highlighted here in this callout note in the bottom right of this screenshot here. So the transparent nature of the background of that note, as it interacts with these darker backgrounded slides, this is a known issue that I submitted via GitHub for some of the Quarto people. It's not a big deal. It's a very small thing. So it wasn't something that had any sort of attention given to it in this newest 1.7.3 release of Quarto. However, what they did do was they obviated that limitation on emojis. And so we actually got emojis through 2 different mechanisms. And like everything else with R, I say R because this is where we see it most frequently, and less so with the authoring packages such as Quarto, but we've largely seen that that's also somewhat less so the case, that there's multiple ways to do everything. So there's a link here to the GitHub repository for a package that I've been using for years, created by Hadley Wickham, and it's called the emo package. I guess we can just take a quick look at it. This is not on CRAN, so you have to follow at the bottom here. You have to use either DevTools or remotes, and you can copy this code, put it into your console, and you'll have access to the package, and then you'd be able to use emojis within your documents the way that I have been for quite some time. And that's just this inline code here that you see. So tick R says this is an R command, and then the emo package is what I'm calling up, and then the JI function within that, and then there's a listing that you can navigate to on the package page that shows you the keywords for the emojis that should be reflective and responsive to this package. And so we can just write it with inline code like I did here. Boy, oh boy, I would, and then call out the emoji to see a microscope, and then give a emoji for the microscope. That renders like what you see below it here. There's an alternative, and that alternative is to, within the RStudio IDE, the environment that I've been using, there's two different editors that you can use with Markdown and Quarto. And this is something that was new about 4 or 5 years ago. And I think, well, I'm not going to speculate as to the reasons why it was offered as a feature. It's not a feature that I frequently use, but for the express purpose of using emojis, specifically within typist documents. So if I'm creating an HTML type file like these slides are, this inline specification here is sufficient for everything I need to do. As a matter of fact, if you were to look at the code for the title of this page, you would see that I'm using the emoji package to call out this shushing emoji here. But with typist in particular, using the visual editor and using the insert emoji option was something that worked fantastic after we downloaded Quarto 1.7. Now, I did something foolish last week, maybe because I was so excited, but I engaged in a bad problem-solving sequence of steps. So I both installed Quarto 1.7.3, the newest version of Quarto, on my computer, and I also installed 2 fonts onto my computer separately, Noto emoji and Noto color emoji. And so I rendered the document with the emojis having 2 possible reasons why it might have worked. So what I did this last week was I went through and I deconstructed that. So I uninstalled 1.7.3. I put the old one back on. I uninstalled the fonts, Noto emoji and Noto color emoji, and I played with different combinations of those to understand if it really is 1.7.3 that gave us the emojis that we want in the typist document, or if it was the specification and the installation of fonts on my computer, or both, which it could have been. But it was Quarto. So it was Quarto 1.7.3. So if you install that, you should be able to access these fonts if you're doing a typist document. If you're doing other document types, HTML in particular, these fonts are going to be available. If you're creating a traditional PDF, you may need a little bit of tweaking to get those fonts to work, but they're also accessible and workable. I've been using them for a long time. As a matter of fact, the syllabus that we're trying to replicate it has a bunch of emojis in it, which once we started to try to replicate those with typist, I was kind of kicking myself about. But now that 1.7.3 came out, no problem, it's fine. So today we're going to finish this syllabus. So today we are going to finish our little impatient guy there. I promise you, impatient guy, we will finish today. So we're going to finish replicating our syllabus except for the margin content. So I'm going to talk about why once we get to it. There is a way to get content in the margins of a typist document, but it goes a little bit beyond the intended purpose of what we're doing here, and I'll show as we get into it. I'll show kind of how we get there and the extra steps that are needed in order to get that. So we're going to call that we could come back to it if we really needed to, but if you're okay with the syllabus looking a little different in terms of format, we're gonna say let's put that kind of to the side for for our purposes. What we are going to focus on are little, what I call here, ticky-tack fiddling things, and these have been fun. So I actually I've mentioned the last few weeks how kind of not frustrating, but not fun it has been to build a typist document to look exactly like what I want it to look like. And I think that's largely just a learning curve issue. That's I don't I I I don't often have that level of, oh my goodness, what do I do now? It's probably good to have it because everyone has it. But the not fun part of it wasn't the, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. What do I do now? Because everyone gets to that point at some point. The not fun part was not knowing if it's a limitation in the platform itself or if it's me. And so that's been as Typist is a new developing product and platform, trying to identify the features that we're trying to impose that are just not built into the capabilities versus finding hacks around the built-in capabilities to get it to look like what you want it to look like. That's been more frustrating than I'm used to, because there's always a hack with HTML files. HTML files are so fun just because you can hack your way around them so easily. In the typist, again, as I mentioned, it's probably just it's on me as someone who needs to learn a little deeper about it. Okay, so we're going to do ticky-tack fiddling, and that ticky-tack fiddling is going to be the things that we've talked about over the course of the last few weeks. And so let's get back to, I do have a link to the syllabus itself here, and so we're going to take a look at it. Ticky-tack things include hyperlinks to an icon, so supplementary material here. If you were to engage with this, it takes you to a location where you can download a version of this particular document that I used as a supplementary document for a class. This is the margin material that we're going to just kind of punt on. And again, once we get into the scripting, I'll explain why we're going to punt that. Emojis we got last week. There's some content further down here that we need to take a look at. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one other thing that we're going to hit coming in. The typist default the typist rendered document, as we did this callout note, was not highlighting the text that's intended to be hyperlinked. And so it was noticeable upon cursor hover, but there was no visual cue absent cursor hover. And so we're going to also control the color of the font of our hyperlinked text. Man, the words you end up using when you try to do this stuff, or the sequence of words, I should say. Tonight in class, there were some vocabulary terms that the class was asking about on the next to last day of class that I should have been more focused on earlier in class. Emojis within tables. So this is a little ticky-tack thing. We did do emojis. We did them in the body of the document. We didn't do them within tables. Tables are always a little different in terms of their specification and how we get it to look like that. So we'll see if we can do that. Another emoji, that shouldn't be an issue. Here, this is the last thing that we need to ticky-tack try to address, and that's focused formatting of specific elements within tables. And so here I have in the syllabus that we're trying to replicate, I have a really poor color choice combination here, which is pink as a background and some pastel blue as the text color. I have the same kind of issue here in this class schedule table, the second class schedule table. This class has a lecture and a lab with it. And so there's black background, white text. There's, again, that unfortunate pink with pastel blue. There's another hyperlink, visual cue. And then that's it. So those are the, that's it. Those are the ticky-tack things that we're going to address. And so I'm going to leave this open so we have it as a reference. And then I'm going to go ahead and let me minimize this. so we can look at it. We'll just address these kind of one by one. And I have a working project folder that we've been using to make slow sequential progress on this. I'm going to take what we've been using and strip it down a little bit. So I'm gonna save this as, I'm gonna make a copy of the file that I've been working on offline, because I want to show people how to find, not just how to do it, but how to find ways to do this. So I'm going to make a copy of this file in RStudio. If I pull this out, I should have a copy option. And what's today, the 13th? So I'll call it 5/13/25. And what I want to do in that file is I want to strip it down of all the information that I did off of offline, so not on the live session. I am going to paste that information, however, into a text file so I have it available, so I don't have to do searches from scratch. And so what other information did I have in here? Oh, this was hyperlinked, so I want to take that away. And so what I'm trying to do here, and the reason I'm doing, is I'm trying to get back to the point we were at last week. And the point we were at last week was just doing emojis. And I wanted to, because I wanted to finish this typist syllabus, I wanted to make sure that that I'd be able to finish it. So I wanted to actually look ahead a little bit. I think tiny table, yeah, this comment line was another, hey, look here. This is telling you what you want to do. So I'm going to paste that into my notepad file. I mean, how 1990s am I? I still use notepad files for, uh-oh. I didn't just lose the internet there, did I? I think I lost, hold on, I lost my music. Sometimes that means I lose the internet. Okay, well, I'm just going to keep talking. Hopefully I'm there. So if I render this document, I should get what we had last week. And if you were here last week, this should look familiar. We added the syllabus here. This is my comparison document that we've been trying to replicate. So on the left is what we're trying to do. On the right is what we're making via typist. Now, one thing that I didn't think about changing is line spacing. We'll see if we have time for it tonight. If we don't, it's something I might do between this week and next. And the only thing that I see here that has more spacing is the table, and that should be easy to address. So hopefully we'll have time for it. So the first piece of information that we don't yet have in the left hand, in the right hand, what we're trying to replicate is this hyperlink. And so the hyperlink in the original PDF specification, the hyperlink was using a package called Font Awesome. And I actually have code here where I'm asking for it. And so this code works in a normal PDF output type. It works in an HTML output type, but it does not work within typist. That's okay. The other thing that I don't have is the citation. So let's put the citation in. I think in my bibliography, what's my bibliography here? Class bib.bib. So that's got to be somewhere in my project folder. Oh, I don't have it. So I need a reference for that book that I have. So let me just see if I can find it. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to say BibTech, ref citation, 2014 standards for educational and psychological testing. That's the book that's being recommended. Let's see how this does. The standard AI that we're getting straight on internet searches without going directly to the AI, they seem to be usually pretty good. I'm going to just visually scan this to see if anything looks funny. It doesn't. So I'm going to take the tag here. We can keep it. There's no need to change that. And I'm going to put it, let's see, where is it in my, so I have required text on the, I kind of like the look of the typist document a little bit. The font's coming through deeper, so it's a deeper colored black. That kind of looks nice. There is a space here and a colon that I didn't put, so maybe if I pay a little closer attention, let's change that. And again, I'm being very meticulous about this. So material is what I want. We know this doesn't work. I'm going to leave it for now so we can see it. Required text. And then line spacing is something that operates differently in the different types of format that we want to call out. We'll see if two spaces work, and with the expectation that it doesn't. But I'm going to put an @ tag for this reference here, and let's render that and see if it works. Again, you don't need to render after every small change, but before you make qualitatively different changes, it's probably not a bad idea. That looks great. My citation is now coming in. It looks like it's the same in this kind of small preview here. Oh, the other thing about RStudio and Quarto 1.7 is I've been with both recent versions of Quarto, I've been noticing some inconsistencies in the preview panel within the environment itself. Now, if you pop this out, there's no inconsistencies, but the preview and the actual rendered document may have some inconsistencies. I've seen that in revealed.js slides. I can't recall off the top of my head where else I've actually seen that. The double space is not working, so we're going to have to look for the typist line character specification, which is never an issue. We just need to find what it is. With HTML files, it's angled brackets surrounding a BR. With LaTeX, it's backslash new page, or 2 backslashes. There's a couple of different ways to do it in LaTeX. So let's see if we can get our icon on here. We know this doesn't work. So what I want to do is I want to put this here, and I want to hyperlink it. And hyperlink is just square brackets and then the web address of what you're trying to hyperlink to. We're just, I don't know why. I'm probably the only person on earth who still goes to Google as like a resource. So you'll see in the rendered document, just nothing there's nothing to hyperlink. There's nothing upon cursor hover. This is non-operative. So let's build up to that. And so one of the things that is operative is within typist, there are the capabilities of doing images and sizing images. So again, what we're trying to replicate is, where's what we're trying to replicate? I keep closing that doggone thing. Why do I do that? There it is. What we're trying to replicate is this little PDF that has a hyperlink to the location where you can get a copy of this this reference or resource. You can get a copy of it for free. Free. Everybody loves free. So you can get a copy of it there. But I just want to get an icon. And again, I don't need to do that, but we're just trying to replicate what's actually already been done. So Quarto does have some nice sizing features. And let me see if I have a hyperlink to this. Of course I don't. So let's do just a Quarto image, typist, and see what we get there. It's probably in the options. So let's look for figures. It's an image, not a figure, but we might get some. And again, I already know how to do this. I'm just trying to help other people with formatting here. So there should be, or with the way to actually get things to render like what they want it to look like. And so what I'm looking for is modifiers of images, section numbering. Nope. It might be in the custom formats option. CSS, we spent the week looking at that. Typist file. Now, I did mention that the margin, one way to get around getting stuff in the margins is to use typist language specifically, and that kind of is not consistent with the whole purpose of what we're doing here. So it's why we're dropping it as a element that we're trying to actually replicate. The other thing we could do is we could create a custom format, and within that format, we could actually get the margin content like what we want. The actual specification is just the is the curly bracket modification that we've been using throughout Quarto, and so I cannot find it right now, but that curly bracket specification just has information within parentheses, and then next to that, appended to that in curly brackets, we can do a width or height specification. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to use an image. So I'm going to look for a image of Adobe that looks similar to what we want. It's a nice looking image there. I'm just going to copy that image address. I've been, instead of mucking up my folders, I've been actually pulling them from the internet as much as possible. So the exclamation point, square bracket, and then in parentheses, the image address is typically the way to ask for a file. I'm going to, before I do a modification, I'm just going to see if it's pulling in that image into my typist document. No, the expectation is it's not. Whoa, that's okay. Pulling it in. It's very big. So the modification that we should be able to do to this directly with curly brackets is it width or dot width? Let me take a look and see what I have. It's either width or height, or dot width or height. Actually, what I want is width, and this will default. You can do different units of measurement. This is going to default to pixels. And so, for example, if we try 100 pixels, the expectation is that this image is going to, the width of it's going to shrink, but the height should shrink along with the width. Okay, still too big. It's where we want it. It's right next to supplementary material, but you can see that it's actually causing the typesetting to look like there's more space between the required text and the supplementary material. So we obviously need to get quite a bit smaller, 20. And again, this is not everyone's going to have the patience to play around with sizes like this. That actually, 20 is not bad. I don't mind that. Again, what we're trying to replicate is this. Now, it could be a little more spacing between there, so spacing should be okay. I'm going to do spacing, and then I'm going to try the hyperlink. So the hyperlink is everything, square brackets, and then the actual location. I'm going to just put in Google, but this could be whatever the address. I'm not sure what the address. Oh, I guess we can find it real quick. So we'll put in the actual address. I was surprised to find a free version of that resource, so that's why I'm saying I'm a little. Hey, look at that. So upon hover, I'm getting color notification, just like I do down here with the text, but we're going to adjust that in just a second. But if I follow that, it does take me to where I want it to, so that's fantastic. One ticky-tack thing almost crossed off, except the actual URL. Let's put that in. So I just accessed it off of my document that we're using as a reference here. And I'm going to put that in on line 40 here as my hyperlinked URL. And now if I re-render that document, we should get a direction in the syllabus, not to Google, but to a place where you can actually get the book. I guess I could have linked straight to the PDF, but I guess people might want different formats. So this linkage right here in terms of the Disability Resource Office, you'll notice in the important callout that we have, it's not visually apparent that that's hyperlinked until you hover over it. And so we can actually induce color, and I have a link here to a discussion that I found that was helpful here. And so there was someone that wanted to add color to highlight a link in typist and Quarto, and so that's what we want to do as well. And then this guy's fantastic. He's always helping out. These guys, well, these two are just like always on top of it. There was a include in header option, and this works just fine. So if we were to copy this and put this in our YAML, we should, I'm losing track of everything that I have here. We should be able to get our hyperlink a little more noticeable. And so I think it needs to be, I should have paid a little closer attention to indenting. We'll throw an error if those indentations are not right. So they're not. So let me take a deeper look here. Looks like include in header I went one too many. These YAML indentation requirements are just a little, I mean, for good reason, I suppose. But what do I have here? I have text under U, and I have color links under X. Now this shouldn't matter because it's commented out. What don't you like? All right, I'm going to recopy this. Actually, I'm going to copy the whole thing. The include in header, that's something, there we go, should be on the same level now. That's something that seems to be operative with a few different format types. What don't you like thing? Again, I'm playing kind of by the seat of my pants here with indents, assuming that that's the issue. And I'm looking to see what. Because it's operative in a few different formats, it's possible that it doesn't like that typist line specification. Well, one thing I can do is I can cheat a little bit and look at my other one and see where it worked. Oh, I did have it over. Okay, so I just had it in the wrong location. It's a subcommand under typist, and so I shouldn't have pasted this underneath siteproc. It makes typist do what we want it to do, but it's not a typist specific command. What they're saying here is this is looking to do something within typist itself. So let's try this. Should have been something that I noticed, but again, these live streams are a little funny in terms of, it's not like there's pressure, but you know, trying to problem solve when there's other people watching, I guess, or eventually watching, a little added pressure. Okay, yay, we got our hyperlink, and again, we should be able to. I just said we don't need to, but we should be able to change this. Let's try a hex. What the heck? well, let's leave it for now. There's a few different ways to specify colors. We could just take one of these RGBs. I don't know what that's going to do to our color, but it'll be different. It shouldn't be blue anymore. So you can specify colors in hex codes, as I usually do, or you can specify them in combinations of red, green, and blue. And so that two different ways. And if, for example, if you ask for a hex code for a color online, it'll typically give you two different ones. And so it looks like that 255 must be a heavy blue saturation, because these are all kind of different modifications of blue. I actually like the first one. The first one was kind of the standard. This is what you expect a hyperlink to look like, so we'll go back to that. The other, what else were we trying to do? Let's get our reference up here. Trying to fly through these a little fast. Just again, the column content we can put in, but I'm going to put in as a footnote. I don't think I want to put it in as a column margin, as a margin element. Microscope, we only have one of them in the syllabus, and we have two of them here because I was trying to show that there's a couple different ways of doing it. So let's get rid of that second microscope. We don't actually need it. There's a first one, there's a second one. Again, you can do it either way, through the emoji, through the emo package, or through the visual insertation. Sure, why not? The visual insertation. The other thing that we wanted to work on was the emojis within the table. So the grades that we have here, and I didn't re-render it, so the second microscope is still there, but the grades that we have here that we're trying to replicate are 90 to 100. There's arrows there as well. Maybe we'll play with that. Class points, and at the very bottom, the silly instructor decided to put in emojis, so we're going to try to do that. Let me find the code chunk that specifies that. And I was building these just, normally I would say this as a CSV, call in the CSV as a table, and then any editing of content I wanted to do, I would do specifically within the CSV. As we're trying to learn about this, I decided to just build it this way, and so I'm going to continue with that. So just going down columns, I have a C, I have a D, and again with R, the spacing doesn't matter. Capitalization does, case sensitivity does, except when it's in double quotes. Here we're telling it that this is an object I'm interested in R displaying more so than meaningful number itself. The interesting thing that we saw here is this double dash markdown notation is being properly interpreted as an, I believe it's called an M or N, M dash, I believe. Let's put a % in there. We didn't do that here. Sometimes these special characters can throw us off. So I'm going to render it before we put emojis in. I'm going to see if it renders with the % characters. The only hesitation I have there is that it is rendering my double dashes as M dashes, so it is looking inside that double quote a little more than we might expect. And we'll go ahead and throw in these points as well. I don't know why I'm being careful about actual numbers. It doesn't matter to anyone watching. So 350 to 399. This class, I don't know how much I should share. I got in trouble with this class. Not the class is fine itself, but something I did about data. And it was stupid on my part. But looking at these numbers kind of reminds me of that. So I'm going to put in some dummy numbers here just to fill out the table, so there's an equal number of rows across these columns, and let's render that. Just to see again, we're mostly looking at that percent value and seeing if that's rendering. Like I didn't check that. That looks great. Again, the spacing of the tiny tables is a little different, but that looks great. Let's see if our trick of using the visual editor gets emojis in there. Now, where's our replication file? On these weekly sessions, I always oh, look at all these tabs. I had a colleague once that I've never seen someone with as many browser tabs open as he. I do it with emails, so I keep emails that I shouldn't, and my inbox is just cluttered with a crazy number of unread emails from years and years ago. But he does it with browser tabs. All right, I got a monkey with his paws, I guess, over his eyes, and a monkey with his paw. Yeah, monkey paw, right? Because that's the science fiction thing. So see no and speak no is what we're looking for. So I want to try to replace. I wonder if those quotes are going to screw us up here. So see no and speak no. I'm going to try the visual editor because we know that what we can see here as emojis are going to be available. And we saw last week that not all of the emojis that were there were operating the way that we hoped they would within our typist document. Look at that. Look at it. What do we say? C first, right? And then I feel like I'm cheating here. I write everything out to make it fully reproducible. And I just kind of feel dirty not doing that, but whatever. I guess you only live once, right? All right. I'm going back to my comfy nookie source editor here. You'll see those icons are now in my code chunk. Cross your fingers, people. We'll see if this works. With normal PDF, there usually is tweaking that needs to be done to get special character. Look at that. Yay. I mean, they're rendering a little differently, but it's the same idea. I I don't like those as well. Look at this monkey's arms. They look like Gumby arms. They're way too bendy. You know what? Just because I'm feeling uncomfortable about that monkey. I know we said we're gonna fully replicate, but let me put a different. This isn't good character in there because the bendy arms are getting to me. They just I don't know. They're disturbing. Muppet arms and legs have always kind of, I don't know why, it's a really odd thing, but have always been like creeping me out a little bit. And so I think it reminds me of that. We'll just put in a normal, nice looking monkey instead of the bendy armed, creepy Muppet monkey. Let's see how that looks. No more creepy arm, bendy arm, Muppet looking monkey. That's better. It's funnier too. No student is going to fail this class, so I don't feel bad about it. But what a cute monkey. If you were to fail this class, like, he's kind of looking over his shoulder, kind of coy-like at you. Like, you didn't do so good in this class, but you're I like you. You're a good person. Now this guy, all right, enough from me. Okay, we got one more. What else were we trying to do? I should have. Oh, table backgrounds. So the other thing that we need to specify are table backgrounds. The table that we're trying to replicate, they're both kind of big. Let's just do a few, and then maybe off week I can try to do extra I can try to fully replicate them if we actually see how it works. And I'm probably the only person that cares. But instead of doing all of this content, we'll see if we can do most of the content. The other thing we could do is I can look in my repository and see if there's a CSV that has this. Let me look for that. That'll be quicker. So I'm going to look. I don't mind sharing with the internet here what my organization system is. So I'm going to see if there is a CSV that I can pull. Seriously? I don't have any CSV. Oh, there's a bunch of them. Schedule and lab schedule, those have to be it. So I'm going to copy both of those and put them into the repo that I, except I don't know where the repo is. What the heck? I know I didn't put this where I normally put repositories, but let's see, users, desktop. I'm going to give somebody vertigo one of these weeks, just switching through windows as frequently as I do. Desktop typist. There it is. Wow, look at all that stuff we did just the last few weeks. So I'm going to paste those two documents in here. Now, in my... now, usually if I'm connected to GitHub, which I usually am, I'd be looking at my Git tab to see those files. But I see them here in the bottom of my Files tab in RStudio. Let's create a new... Why do I have this twice? What's going on here? Let's render this. I think I might have been playing with the top table to see if I could modify it in terms of format. And it looks like that's what I was doing. So when I was undoing all the work that I had done, I didn't... look at that nice hyperlinked icon. Table, and then table replicated down. Yeah, so we don't want that. So I can just replace... I can actually replace this chunk with a call out for my new files. And so I'm not sure, I haven't used tiny tables prior to us looking into typist. So the way that we're calling those other files in is we're actually reading them in as data tables. So I'm going to read in the file as an object itself. So what was it called? Sked. That's funny. I usually, just as a joke to myself, call it sked, not sked. So sked with a K, not sked with a CH. Let's see if we can get... Let's see if Tiny Tables continues to impress and gives us a nice looking table within our typist document. I'm going to render that. Now, one of the things that the RStudio IDE isn't always consistently great for is the... Hey, look at that. I forgot what I was going to say. It's not great for... Oh, it's not great for just running chunk by chunk for text-based or document type information. So the reason I went and rendered instead of just running this chunk is, well, one, I have to run all of the necessary redundant dependencies above. But the expectation is that the preview might not look great. And so it comes through... but you can see the formatting isn't, we wouldn't be able to check the formatting. So we can check the formatting here. I believe that this is full width. So let's change that. Oh, no, it's not. So it looks like it's rendering about the same width, actually. Let's put in our heading here. And I think we were using level 2 headers for our previous ones, and those looked pretty good. So I'm going to use a level 2 header, and class schedule lecture topics. I also have too many emojis. I also have an emoji on this, so we'll put that in. It's to the right of the colon. We'll try the emoji specification this time instead of. I think it's probably just books, and we'll see if this works. It might not look exactly the same because books might not be the same keyword for what we're trying to replicate here. It is, but again, the emojis that are being pulled on these different browsers and specifications. So if I were to pull this up, my guess, I'm in Microsoft Edge. If I were to pull this up in a different browser, that those books might look different. Let's try that real quick. What are we in? 513 PDF. Let's see if we can pull that up in a different browser. Just out of curiosity, because I've been noticing that my emojis as rendered have been looking different just recently, like really recently. And it does depend, it should depend on the browser. So I'm going to see if I can right click and open with here on this. And we'll try to open it in Chrome with the expectation that those emojis might look different. They don't. Okay. Interesting. Maybe it is a universal thing. So, whoa, sorry. I'm going to give you the Doctor Strange thing there. So we got our table, but what we wanted to do in the table was to highlight some rows. So the rows that I have highlighted here, there's a pink one for May 24th. So March 24th, I guess it is. So in tiny tables, let me see. I think I have a link here to a resource that we can use. I'll put this in the chat as well. So I found this and thought it was kind of helpful for the formatting that we want to do with tables. And so I guess style is more what we're talking about. So colors. I was interested in putting colors in to this table on this line, on this row. And one of the neat things about, you see here that they've identified the first column. One of the neat things about Tiny Table is the specification of where you want to affect a change. And they use the old mathematical notation of I is column and J is, I is row and J is column. If I were to screw up my explanation of that, there's a bunch of ghosts of professors that would come back and haunt me. So it's always, matrices are always row by column. In terms of notation, the row is an I, the row is an I, and the column is a J. Told you today was kind of goofy, a bunch of stuff happening. So it's not surprising that I might transpose I and J there. You'll see that in the help pages for Tiny Table, they're actually using the native piping operator, and I've been seeing more and more of this. That's kind of fun to see. So same thing as the Magritter or the tidyverse kind of piping. That's the percent send over percent piping, but it comes with base. It's supported by base R, so there's no need of package loading. Everybody seems to prefer to code with that kind of piping structure. So for the last few years, it's now been available, but it's only recently been becoming kind of common to see within help documentation. Now this looks similar to what we want to do. Not really, but we're actually seeing background. And background, this is the first time I've seen the background of a cell as I'm scrolling through here. I see alignment, I see font size, I see text color, but this is the first I've seen of of actual background. So I think we want to change both background and the font itself. Here's another one. Excuse me for coughing in like that. But they're using the style TT function. And so this looks most similar to what we want to do. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Again, one of the reasons we're using Tiny Table. Oh, sorry about that. One of the reasons we're using Tiny Table is they are explicitly supporting typist, and they're interested in supporting typist. So I just pasted in using that piping operator from the previous table that we've rendered, just this styling that we're going to add to it. Now we don't want row 0 here. We actually want, so row 0 is going to be the header. We want row, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if we're wrong, it should be an easy change. But we'll actually try row 8, which should just be I. And then I guess we could try them both here. We'll leave it as it is currently. It's not going to be what we want. Again, what we're working toward. It's kind of ridiculous, but this difficult to see pink. Well, the pink isn't difficult to see. The unfortunate blue on top of it is unfortunate to see. We'll try black and white first just to see if this is going to work as a proof of concept. If it works as proof of concept, we should be able to change it over. Looks like it didn't like that. Let's see if we can replicate. So when something like this happens, one of the things that I like to do is to replicate the entire specification. So unfortunately, the entire specification here is going to be identified somewhere further off. So where is X created? Looking to see where we have an X specified. And of course, it's going to be super high up here. Man, they use X a lot, don't they? I've said so much positive about this packet. Oh, there it is. So we're going to have to put that in as well. I'm going to just put that in as an extra code chunk. Let's see if we can get it to work. So we'll do just the first little bit out of the empty cars package. And then, of course, I have to scroll back way down to what we're looking for. It could be, you know what it could be? It could be that it doesn't like the fact that the information after the piping operator is on the same line. It's a silly thing. But sometimes, again, this is the native piping operator is not something that I've played with previously. So it's operating like we want it to there. Let's try actually, oh, you know what I did? How did that happen? I put it in the wrong chunk. So I tried to apply our formatting to this table, which doesn't have 8 rows. Probably a good reason to name your chunks. So this is schedule. Schedule dummy, we'll call it. Without the exclamation points. So let's try it inline just to see if that actually does work. I was trying to apply the styling to a table that doesn't have 8 rows. So R is always right. We're wrong. Curious if, no, it looks like the indentation isn't something that, I would probably leave it like that actually. It looks a lot better than the pink. But just to fully replicate, let's see if we can get the pink. And then this other stuff is the same. I'll just do that offline and then we're done. We've done everything we need to do to fully replicate this, other than, like I said, other than this little bit of the syllabus that's in the right hand margin. And again, the way to do that, there's two different ways. You could create a custom typist template that allows for information to be put in the column, or we could ask for the typist file itself to be produced as an intermediate step to our PDF, and then we could use typist language to specify that. That is kind of beyond the scope of what the intended purpose of these weekly sessions are, so we decided, I'll just put it in as a footnote. Maybe I'll do that before we end tonight. I'll put that in as a footnote. So let's go ahead and change these first. Now you'll note that it's just normal color specifications here. We should be able to do that with hex codes as well. So we'll see, grab a pink that looks like, I could go to the original PDF specification and just pull it. But this looks really close, doesn't it? Let's just go with that. What the heck is it? FFC0C, C0 or CD? I can't tell. Now I'm gonna lose it. FFC0CB, FFC0CB, FFC0CB. Even though R is case sensitive, the hex code specifications are not. That looks fine. I think we'll just go with that. And then the blue, geez, I don't know. We'll do a Google search for lame blue color. If the government finds out my search history and what I'm looking for, they're probably gonna come after me. Lame blue. Lame blue. It's kind of hard to tell. Looks like something in here, maybe. Again, I could go and actually get it, but the whole point of this is just to get something that is hard to see. All right, so I copied that color code. We'll put that in here. I don't think that's exactly right. I'm echoing something here. What? Oh, a bit of code down here. We don't need this anymore. Thank you, empty cars, but we don't need you anymore. Sorry to destroy your echo. Yes. Okay. So it looks terrible, just like the original. All right. Since we're spending a little bit of time here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the actual PDF that created the syllabus. I'm going to pull the actual hex codes so we can see how close. I mean, it should be exact, but I have it. Why not pull it up? So, where the heck is my syllabus? So this is my specification of the syllabus, and I'm looking for a chunk that has, probably it's called class schedule. There it is. So I have two colors specified. I'm going to copy that entire chunk. I'm just going to put them in here temporarily. And so you see they're close, but obviously not exact. I'm going to copy that, paste it in. Our FF was really close, actually. So our background was really close. The text was quite a bit off. But that's probably because it's kind of difficult to see the way that it's rendered. But now this should be an exact duplicate. That does look a lot more hideously similar. There we go. Yeah, those are hideously the same. It does look like this is a little wider. So again, the nice thing about one of the great things about Tiny Table is using this width specification. And so if we want to push this all the way out to, if we want to push it, it's 3 columns. So we'll have to do 3. So I'll make the first one, we'll do 20%. We're going to add this to 100 so it spans the entire breadth of our field here. I'll do 0.2, 0.3, and no, let's do 0.4, 0.4. So we'll make the first one skinnier and the second two the same width. and it should be rendered the entire width of the printed document. There we go. So very easy specification. Now the last thing we were going to do is we were going to, before I finish this and show you what the finished product looks like next week, I was going to take this content and just put it in as a hyperlink. And so I'm going to see if I can copy it. Copying from PDFs is always kind of tricky. We'll put it in. We'll put it in early here. Where's a good course objectives? We'll put it in under course objectives. Now there's a few different ways to do hyperlinks. So probably the easiest is just to port all of the content into within square brackets after a caret mark. Now you can also, because this gets a little cluttery, you can also within the square brackets give the footnote a name, and then later somewhere in your document just kind of set it aside and call that out. So a couple different ways to use footnotes. Now my expectation is we're going to get a number 1 after course objectives, and there should be bottom content associated with that. And as a matter of fact, there's usually a hyperlink with that as well. Yeah, so if you hover over the 1, it'll take you to it. So we do have information here, and what we're missing is the emojis. We know that we can put in emojis a couple of different ways. Let's try. This should work. Inline code, even though it's in a footnote. Let's put in one that we know works before we try to do pirate flags, because it's possible. I'm not getting much feedback here in my environment, so it's possible that, I don't know, that inline code isn't working. It looks like it is working. So let's look for the pirate flag. I'm going to pull up my linked resource page that actually Hadley is pulling from when he specifies his emojis. And again, this list might not be fully compatible with what am I doing? With what our markdown, with what RStudio has as its list of possibilities. Pirate, there we go. No, we don't want a black flag. We want pirate flag. There it is. So this is the key that we're looking for. We'll kind of cross our fingers and hope that this emoji is available within this rendering session. Yay! Again, it looks a little different, doesn't it? It's missing its mast. So it's a pirate flag with a, and I have 2 of them. So we'll just double that up. Okay. So cool. We have all of the ticky-tack formatting elements that we were interested in fully replicating within our typist specified syllabus. And again, kind of silly little thing. The only thing that we wanted to do that we weren't able to fully replicate in this original syllabus was this margin content. Everything else came through like we wanted it to. Now I haven't gone through and done all of these tables just because you don't need to sit there and watch me do that. It's the concept is we've proven the concept. This document actually is looking not bad at all. I can't believe we got emojis in a table so easily. Now the one thing, it's quarter after, maybe we'll just call it. The one thing that I didn't do, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, is I didn't put arrows in. Now, arrow I usually specify through LaTeX, so I'm not sure if that's actually going, I'm guessing it's not going to work. And so if it doesn't, we'll either just call it for tonight and I'll finish it up offline, or we'll see if there's an emoji that works, because there probably is a right arrow type emoji. We can just put that in. Yeah, it's not going to like that. Just to make sure that I specified that right, I'm going to take this and put it in the body of my document, and I should be able to get a preview on it upon hover within RStudio here to see what that looks like. Yeah, so the specification is correct. Let's see if there's a right arrow emoji, because that would be the easiest of easy solutions here. I've never used the visual editor as much as I've used the visual editor tonight. It's acting a little funny. It's wanting me to do this twice. I think it feels like it's because of cursor location that it's kind of jumping around on me a little bit. But again, this is not something that I frequently do. I mean, we have this guy that kind of is close. I don't like the I don't like the blue boxes, so we could try that, and that would work. Or I would consider it kind of close enough. I mean, actually, getting a typist document to recognize LaTeX within a table is, ooh, I actually like that. I actually do like that. It looks a lot different than it did as an emoji. So I think actually I prefer that to this. So let's do a quick swap out of our double dashes. Oh my goodness. You know what's going on? It's the visual editor. This is maybe why I don't like it. That was jumping around on me like you would not believe. That was kind of crazy. It still is. Oh my goodness. Okay, stop, Kulas. All right, so the editor is now jumping around on me like crazy, unless I accidentally hit my insert button, which doesn't look like I did because my cursor looks okay. Yeah, it's just acting really fun. My keyboard and my cursor are not aligned right now, which is an uncomfortable place to be in. But again, probably a reason to stay out of the visual editor. I do like the way that that double arrow renders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit, just given the last rendering that we did. And when I come back in, it should be fine. I'll do that while everyone's here. I'm not going to save this. What we were working on is right here in the chunk on line 57. And I don't want to save what we did because that's it's easily reproducible. These will all go away in a second, but I can force that and make them go away. Let's come back into R, and hopefully my keyboard and my screen communicate with each other better. It's the visual editor. I've never had that issue before. It's really disconcerting. It's almost like, so here we're in the source editor again. The last time we rendered it, we did have this icon here. So I'm going to copy that. The spacing, oh my goodness, it's happening again. All right. So I'm going to have to figure this out offline. So my keyboard is wonked. So it's operating okay down here. What is going on? It's up here where I have my columns, or I'm sorry, my numbers specified. It is, let me try to explain what it's doing. So see if I can. So cursor blinking on line 63 between two double apostrophes. I'm going to hit the letter Q. And it's placing that number not where the cursor is, but in front of where the cursor is. I honestly have never seen that. I don't, I don't know if that might have something to do with. So there's some logic in the RStudio editor that make it useful for me. So for example, when I'm typing something and I say, "Hello world, it's a great day." If I later decide that I want to do something to that text, I can copy the whole thing and hit square brackets and it includes it. Or if I want to say, "What about this?" and I decide that I want to put quotes around the whole thing, I just highlight it and I can hit double quotes. Now in Word or normal word processors, trying to specify one of those operations, the square brackets or the double quotations, or there's several other things. Parentheses do that, curly brackets do that. Normally, if you highlight something and hit one of those operators, your expectation is that you're just going to get that operator replacing what's highlighted. Now, RStudio is fantastic because highlighting and enclosing is something that's done for all kinds of formatting purposes. It makes coding and writing a lot easier and more efficient. I'm guessing that something about what we've done going back and forth between the visual and the source editor has messed up some of that internal logic here. So I probably have like a weird trailing double apostrophe somewhere, but I'm gonna have to go in and try to redeem that. It's just messed up. So again, if I don't know if I try it elsewhere. Yeah, it's every cursor movement that I try to do is affecting the space to before. So what I just did there, my delete's working, but I'm just hitting space between the double colon and the less than sign, and it's operating prior to the actual spot of the cursor. So I don't know what's going on. It's only happening in here. So I'm going to have to go in and remediate that, and then I'll probably I'm not sure I'll be able to understand why that is. So if I am able to recover and figure out why that is, this isn't something that I feel is necessary to like submit. I just off the top of my head, it's got to be something to do with going back and forth between that visual and source editor. So it may be that just installing a new RStudio, they just recently came out with an update, so maybe I need to update that. But that is odd. That's really bizarre. First time I've seen that happen. Okay, so I'm not going to save that, but we have our syllabus looking like what we want it to, with all of the little tweaks that we wanted to add. Between this week and next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the rest of the content. Again, I don't think anyone cares, but it's just we have everything working like we want. I'm just going to put in the content, and that's just literally cutting and pasting big blocks of text. Other than that, we have everything we want. All right, cool. So thanks for showing up. If you have any questions or ideas about things you'd like to see, drop me a note. Next week, we're moving on. So next week, you can probably see it here. I was thinking about checking out a site drive, which is a different way to control references within Quarto. I don't know anything about it, so we might do that. We might do something else. If someone has a request, let me know. We can do that. All right, thanks everybody.